Morning, Colin. Yes, very well, thank you.
Well, look, we just got back from Brussels. Eurostar, tried to delay us, but we fought through. But we had a cracking couple of days in Brussels, hosted by Carrefour. We had 60 odd retailers there. We had 15 odd people from startups, innovation companies, and we had loads of store visits. We had presentations from Tesco, Carrefour, Albert Heijn, Jumbo, Sainsbury's, Big Y,
Mhm.
and then lots of sort of interactive discussions, innovation showcase. Of course, the highlights, beers and barbecue on the patio in the evening. So we had great weather as well.
We did,
What
we did.
what a fantastic thing that was. Um, but above all, I suppose, Adrian, what were your sort of key sort of thoughts as we walked away from that sort of
Mm.
meeting and sort of reflected on it, now what was good, what was bad, what we do differently, or just overall impressions.
Mm. Yeah, I thought I thought it was an excellent 2 days, Colin. I think, and you put a lot of time and effort into organising it, as did Carrefour as well, and we really appreciated their hospitality and access to their organisation actually. And I think, whilst we're very familiar now, aren't we, with online, and we'll get together for an hour and we'll go through a topic. Every now and again, it is so good just to get together and break bread together and to spend some time talking through issues over more than 1 hour, and doing it formally and informally. And so I think I got a lot just from catching up with people and the networking that you can do physically that you simply can't do as easily virtually. So it was a real big tick for me just in terms of the value that comes from just investing in the time to go and meet people in places. So that was a big plus for me. But what I also got out of it was, that the amount of energy that retailers have now got around self-checkout, and trying to understand the best ways that it can bring value to their businesses, but also, not jeopardize their businesses in terms of the risk that is also now very clearly present. And I was really struck with how willing retailers are to share their experiences. You mentioned some of the companies that made presentations, and I thought all the presentations were absolutely fantastic in the openness and willingness to share what's going on within their organizations, the experiences of using different interventions to try and do this, but also not just being a constant technology show. That there's recognition that retailing is pretty much still a people business. And there were retailers who were talking about how they need to invest in their people, in their training, in their processes and how they work in those spaces. So there was a huge amount of learning, I thought, that people got from that.
Yeah,
Um,
if I could build on that, I mean, I
sure.
think if we, as you say, reflect back, we've been researching self checkouts now for 11 years, 12 years, 15 years. And I think it was, if I look back to the audience we had, back in the day, it was mainly loss prevention people.
Yeah.
And if I'm being really, you know, naughty, moaning about self checkouts, and we just had that conversation, just that sort of like shooting ourselves in the foot, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. Now I sense that there was an energy and there was cross-functional discussions,
Mm.
positive discussions around the friction versus the interventions and the controls, and that was really great to see. Many retailers sent along both their sort of customer service people, the proposition people who own the
Mm.
front end, along with the people who from operations who are looking at controls, and that did generate a lot of energy, a lot of passion. And so I think you're absolutely spot on with your observation about the energy. There was high energy for change and a sort
Mm.
of sense that things can really improve and deliver a better proposition to the customer. Love that.
Yeah, yeah. I think a good example of the exact thing you're saying there. It was one of the presentations where, on the one hand, you had the loss prevention team saying, which was, in an ideal world, I would audit every single scan and go customer. That's what I'd love to do because it's in my DNA to do that. And you got the customers, the front end team saying, in an ideal world, I don't want anybody audited as part of this process. I want it to be the slickest, easiest process. And they have to come together and make sure that they're building, the right way to deliver what is good for the business and the consumer. And so you're right. We're seeing this sort of the compromise around how do we make those business choices work most effectively for our organisations, and that requires collaboration across different functions because, you'll just end up with a very dysfunctional approach if you just go to either end of the spectrum with this. So,
And
I was listening very intently around how these different people were talking about the proposition and the problem, and they're listening to each other and trying to find a middle ground.
And that sort of that inspires innovation is what
Mhm.
that does, I think, and it inspires new ways of thinking. Just the two sort of molecules touching each other, and boom, we've got a
Yeah,
different way of doing an algorithm, or whatever, the different way of managing the gates, or a different way
yeah.
of managing the people. Yeah, so yeah, absolutely spot on.
Yes, and I came away, and I think the retailers came away with lots of ideas. I think that's the level of sharing, which is, I think, you captured at the end, which you said, what will you take away from this meeting? And people had pretty impressive lists of things that they wanted to go and try out and do and find out more about. And so, I think there's a lot of value that people got from the investment in time, because these are clearly high investment, aren't they, in terms of 2 days of people's time and travel and so on. But lots of people went away with very clear to-do lists from what they'd heard from other retailers, and indeed the innovators that we got in the room as well, to share their ideas as to how they think they can resolve this. So I think there's a lot of benefit that the group got from the 2 days we were together.
Yeah, that certainly was quite good, wasn't it? Just listening to those innovators. Just we had 9 of them, and they all had different perspectives and different ideas. And again, that's sort of part of this whole innovation piece as well. Finding new ways, friction versus the controls. Yeah,
Yeah.
exciting.
It is because I think self checkout is getting more and more complicated because there's so many different variants of it now. It's not just as a fixed SCO machine. You have 6 different types of fixed SCO machines. You've got mobile SCO, you've got scan and go, you've got whole store SCO. There's all these variants that are now going on out there, and retailers are having to be much more sophisticated in tailoring their approach for the different sorts of SCOs that they're using. You may have some stores which might have 4 or 5 different types of SCO in the same store, each one requiring perhaps a subtly different way to make sure that they are delivering value to the business, and not causing too much loss, but at the same time not causing too much inconvenience to the consumer.
Yeah. So your takeaways in summary was great to be in person, and then just, I suppose, you're inspired in some ways by the energy to make improvements and saw some great presentations. What's not to
Yeah.
like about that?
Well, and an excellent barbecue that didn't give me food poisoning. So what's not to like about that?
That's a bonus. And no rain in Belgium.
And no rain in Belgium, yes.
I mean, it's a win-win. Very good. Thank you very much, Adrian. Really
Pleasure.
appreciate your feedback. Thank you.
All right. Cheers, mate. Bye bye.